Do you know what separates Jewish families who build generational empires from everyone else who struggles paycheck to paycheck their entire lives? It is not luck. It is not connections. It is not even intelligence. It is a single conversation that happens behind closed doors when a Jewish boy turns 13 years old. A conversation so powerful, so precisely engineered over 3,000 years of refinement, that it literally programs a young mind for wealth before he even enters the adult world. I am going to share that conversation with you today, not the watered-down version you read about online, not the sanitized cultural summary you find in some article. I am talking about the real words, the real principles, the real spiritual technology that Jewish fathers transmit to their sons at the bar mitzvah ceremony, and more importantly, in the private moments after the ceremony that nobody outside the family ever hears about. I have spent over 35 years studying Talmudic wealth principles. I come from a lineage of rabbis stretching back 7 generations in Eastern Europe. My family lost everything in the war, rebuilt from absolutely nothing, and within 2 generations had built businesses across 3 continents. That did not happen by accident. It happened because of what was whispered from father to son at 13. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what those words are, why they work at a spiritual and psychological level, and how you can apply them to your own life starting tonight, regardless of your age, your background, or your religion. And the final secret I will share toward the end, the one my own grandfather made me swear I would only teach to those truly ready to hear it, that one alone has the power to completely restructure your relationship with money forever. Most people will never learn this because they dismiss ancient wisdom as outdated. They chase the latest trend, the latest guru, the latest hack. Meanwhile, Jewish families quietly continue to build wealth generation after generation, using principles that are older than most civilizations on this planet. So stay with me until the very end, because what I am about to reveal could be the most important financial education you have ever received. I need to take you back to where this all started for me personally. I was 12 years old, the year before my own bar mitzvah, and my grandfather, may his memory be a blessing, called me into his study one evening after Shabbat dinner. The room smelled like old books and candle wax. He sat me down across from his desk, looked me directly in the eyes, and told me something I did not understand at the time, but that changed the entire trajectory of my life. He said that money is not a reward, and it is not a punishment. Money is a language, and the Creator speaks through it. He told me that most people spend their entire lives trying to earn money when they should be learning to speak its language. He said Jewish families understood this 3,000 years ago, and that everything I needed to know about wealth was already written in the Talmud, hidden in plain sight for anyone wise enough to look. At 12, I thought he was just being philosophical. But then I watched what happened over the next decade. I watched my grandfather, a man who arrived in this country with literally nothing, no money, no English, no connections, build a real estate portfolio that supported our entire extended family. I need to stop here for a moment. What I'm about to share changed my life, and it's already changing thousands of others. I've put everything into the Jewish Money Code, 3 complete books with all the rituals, prayers, and ancient principles that wealthy Jewish families have protected for generations. This isn't just a video. This is the beginning. If you want the complete system, the link is in the description and pinned in the first comment. I watched him make decisions that seemed counterintuitive to everyone around him, but always turned out right. I watched him give away enormous amounts of money and somehow always end up with more. When I was 23, I was struggling badly. I had finished my rabbinical studies, but I was drowning in debt, living in a tiny apartment, unable to figure out why everything I tried financially seemed to fail. That is when I finally went back to my grandfather's teachings. Not the surface-level cultural traditions, the deep principles, the actual Talmudic frameworks for wealth creation. Within 18 months of applying what he taught me, I had eliminated my debt completely, started my first business, and was earning more in a month than I had previously earned in a year. That is when I knew this was not just philosophy. This was not just nice ideas from old books. This was a real, functioning system that works as reliably as gravity. The Talmud teaches that wealth follows spiritual laws, just as predictable as physical laws. The ancient rabbis did not just pray for prosperity. They studied the mechanics of it. They identified patterns, tested principles across generations, documented what worked and what did not, and encoded everything into teachings that have survived for millennia. I am simply the messenger. I am passing down what was passed down to me. And right now, I want you to write in the comments the words, "I am ready," because that simple declaration activates something inside you. It tells your subconscious mind and the universe itself that you are prepared to receive what I am about to teach. Now let me tell you what is really happening with most people and why they stay stuck financially no matter how hard they work. I know exactly what you are going through right now. You wake up every morning with that weight on your chest, that low-level anxiety about bills, about the future, about whether you are ever going to get ahead. You work hard, maybe harder than anyone you know, and yet the money never seems to be enough. It comes in and it goes right back out like water through a sieve. You have tried budgeting. You have tried investing apps. You have tried side hustles. You have tried manifesting. You have read the books and watched the videos, and nothing has fundamentally changed. I know because I have sat across from thousands of people just like you over 3 decades. The pain is always the same, the frustration is always the same, and the reason is always the same. Here is why conventional methods fail. Budgeting fails because it treats money as a math problem when it is actually an energy problem. You can organize scarcity perfectly and still be broke. I have to pause here because thousands of you have already downloaded the Jewish Money Code collection, and the messages I'm receiving are incredible. People paying off debt, attracting unexpected money, finally breaking the cycle of poverty. These 3 books contain everything: the rituals, the prayers, the mindset shifts, the daily practices, the complete system. The link is waiting for you in the description. Every day you wait is another day stuck in the same patterns. Now, let me share the most powerful secret. Investing apps and stock tips fail because they give you tactics without foundation. You are building on sand. You might win sometimes, but you will always lose in the long run because you do not understand the underlying principles. And modern manifestation culture fails because it took ancient spiritual laws, stripped away all the discipline and structure, and turned it into wishful thinking. You cannot just think your way to wealth. The Talmud is very clear about this. In Tractate Nida, it teaches that sustenance is decreed from above, but action is required from below. There is a spiritual component and a physical component, and you need both working in harmony. The lie you have been told, the biggest lie in modern financial education, is that wealth is primarily about information. Learn the right strategy, pick the right stock, find the right niche, and you will get rich. I have studied this for over 35 years, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that information is maybe 10% of the equation. 90% is something else entirely, something the Jewish people understood thousands of years ago. It is not about knowing the right strategy. It is about knowing the right principles, the spiritual laws that govern the flow of abundance in this world. It is about knowing the secrets that most people will never learn because they are too busy chasing the latest trend. The universal truth, the one the ancient rabbis codified and protected and transmitted from generation to generation, is this. The Talmud in Tractate Shabbat teaches that a person's livelihood is decreed on Rosh Hashanah, but the channels through which it arrives are determined by the person's actions, words, and spiritual alignment throughout the year. This means the abundance is already yours. It has already been allocated. But whether it reaches you or gets diverted depends entirely on whether you are aligned with the spiritual laws that govern its flow. The ancient rabbis did not just theorize about this, they codified it into specific, actionable practices. Practices that Jewish families have followed for 3 millennia, and that explain why, despite being less than 0.2% of the world's population, Jewish people have achieved extraordinary success across virtually every field of human endeavor. Everything I am teaching you in this video is only the beginning. If you are serious about applying these ancient Jewish wealth principles to your life, I wrote a book called The Ancient Wealth Code. It contains the complete system, all 10 principles that Jewish families have used for 3,000 years to build, protect, and pass down wealth from generation to generation. This is not theory. This is the exact playbook. It is available right now in the description below and pinned in the first comment. Go get your copy today, because knowledge without action is worthless. Now let me tell you exactly what happens at a bar mitzvah that creates this wealth programming, because once you understand the mechanism, you can apply it yourself at any age. The bar mitzvah is not just a party. It is not just a cultural celebration. It is one of the most sophisticated psychological and spiritual programming events ever designed, and the wealth component is the part that nobody talks about publicly. There are specific principles woven into the entire experience, and tonight I am going to break down the most powerful ones for you. The first principle is what I call the transfer of identity. At exactly 13 years old, a Jewish boy is told publicly and privately that he is no longer a child. He is now responsible for his own actions, his own spiritual life, and critically, his own financial destiny. In the Talmud, Tractate Avot, it says at 13:1 is obligated to the commandments. This sounds simple, but the psychological impact is staggering. At 13, while other kids are being told to just focus on school and not worry about money, a Jewish boy is being told you are now a man, and the responsibility for your prosperity rests on your shoulders. This single shift in identity, this transfer from dependent child to responsible adult, rewires the brain. Neuroscience has actually confirmed what the rabbis knew 3,000 years ago, that identity shifts made during adolescence create neural pathways that persist for life. When a Jewish boy stands before his community and declares himself a man, his brain literally begins to process the world differently. He starts to see opportunities where before he saw obstacles. He starts to think in terms of responsibility and creation rather than dependence and consumption. The second principle is the obligation of generosity. This is the one that confuses people the most. On the very day a Jewish boy becomes a man, one of the first things he is taught is that he must give away a portion of everything he earns for the rest of his life. The Talmud prescribes a minimum of 10%, which we call maser. Now most people hear this and think it is a nice charitable idea. It is not. It is a wealth technology. The Talmud in Tractate Tanit says explicitly, tithe so that you may become wealthy. The Hebrew wordplay is intentional, aser te aser, tithe, and you will become rich. The ancient rabbis understood something that modern economists still cannot fully explain. When you systematically give away a portion of your income with pure intention, the channels of abundance open wider. I have witnessed this hundreds of times personally. The families who tithe consistently are invariably the families who prosper most. It works not because of some magical thinking, but because it fundamentally changes your relationship with money. When you give freely, you are telling your subconscious mind and the universe that you operate from abundance, not scarcity, and the universe responds accordingly. The third principle is what Jewish fathers whisper privately after the public ceremony is over. This is the one you will not find in any article or documentary. When the guests have gone home and the family is alone, the father sits down with his son and teaches him about multiple streams of income, not in modern business language, but in Talmudic wisdom. The Talmud in Tractate Yevamot says a person should always divide their money into three parts: 1/3 in land, 1/3 in commerce, and 1/3 kept liquid. This was written nearly 2,000 years ago, and it is essentially modern portfolio theory. Jewish fathers teach their sons at 13 that you never rely on a single source of income. Never. You build multiple channels for abundance to flow to you. And this is not just financial advice. It is spiritual architecture. The Kabbalistic teaching behind this is that abundance flows through channels, and the more channels you create, the more abundance can reach you. One channel can be blocked, but when you have 3, 5, 7 channels, the flow of prosperity becomes almost impossible to stop. The fourth principle is perhaps the most powerful, and it is the one my grandfather emphasized above all others. He called it the principle of the spoken word. In Jewish mysticism, in Kabbalah, words are not just sounds, they are creative forces. The book of Genesis teaches that the Creator spoke the world into existence. Words created reality itself. Jewish fathers teach their sons at 13 to never, and I mean never, speak poverty over their own lives. You will never hear a Jewish person say, "I am broke," or "I cannot afford it," or "money is evil." These phrases are forbidden, not because they are socially unacceptable, but because they are spiritually destructive. The Talmud teaches that a covenant is made with the lips, meaning whatever you declare repeatedly becomes your reality. So instead of saying, "I cannot afford it," a Jewish father teaches his son to say, "How can I afford it?" Instead of saying money is hard to make, he teaches his son to say money flows to those who create value. This is not positive thinking. This is spiritual law. The words you speak about money literally shape the channels through which money can flow to you. Speak poverty, and you close the channels. Speak abundance, and you open them. Now, everything I have shared with you today is powerful, but I want to be honest with you. This is just a fraction of the complete system. In the ancient wealth code, I lay out all 10 principles step by step, principle by principle. What you have learned in this video is 4 of those 10 principles. The remaining 6 go even deeper, and some of them are the most transformative teachings I have ever shared. The link is in the description and pinned in the first comment. If this video has opened your eyes, the book will change your life. The 5th principle that Jewish fathers transmit is the principle of sacred patience. The Talmud in Tractate Eruvin teaches that the one who is patient will achieve wealth. Jewish families do not chase quick riches. They build slowly, deliberately, generationally. A Jewish father tells his 13-year-old son, "You are not building for yourself. You are building for your children and your children's children." This completely eliminates the desperate, short-term thinking that destroys most people financially. When you think in terms of generations, you make completely different decisions. You do not gamble on get-rich-quick schemes. You do not spend money to impress people you do not care about. You invest, you build, you plant trees whose shade you may never sit in because you know your grandchildren will. This is why Jewish wealth tends to grow over generations, while most other family fortunes are gone within 3. The statistics are shocking. 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the 2nd generation, and 90% lose it by the 3rd. But Jewish families who follow these principles consistently build wealth that lasts for centuries. The difference is this principle. They are not building for today. They are building for eternity. Now let me tell you what to expect when you start applying these principles, because the results follow a very specific pattern that the ancient rabbis documented. Within the first 24 hours of genuinely adopting these principles, not just intellectually understanding them, but truly committing to them, you will notice a subtle shift in your awareness. You will start to see opportunities that were always there, but that you were blind to. Your internal dialogue about money will begin to change. These are the first signs that the channels are opening. Within 3 to 7 days, you will experience what I call the first confirmation. Something tangible will happen. An unexpected payment will arrive. Someone will offer you an opportunity out of nowhere. A financial problem that seemed impossible will suddenly resolve itself. Do not dismiss these as coincidences. They are not. They are confirmations that you are aligning with universal law. Within 30 days of consistent practice, the transformation becomes undeniable. The people around you will notice it before you do. Your relationship with money will have fundamentally shifted from one of anxiety and scarcity to one of confidence and flow. I have seen this pattern repeat itself thousands of times across decades. Trust the process and let it unfold. But I must give you serious warnings, because with this knowledge comes tremendous responsibility. The first warning is this: never use these principles with the intention of hoarding or harming others. The Talmud in Tractate Bava Batra teaches that wealth acquired through exploitation is never sustained. I have personally witnessed individuals who learned these principles and tried to use them selfishly, manipulatively, with zero regard for anyone else. In every single case, the wealth they built collapsed. Some lost everything within months. The spiritual laws that govern abundance also govern justice, and you cannot cheat the system. Your intentions must be pure. Build wealth to provide for your family, to create value for the world, to give generously, and to honor the Creator who made these principles available to you. The second warning is equally important. Do not share these principles with people who will mock them or use them irresponsibly. The Talmud teaches, do not cast pearls before swine, and this applies directly. When you share sacred wisdom with someone who ridicules it or treats it as a joke, you weaken the spiritual energy of that wisdom in your own life. Be selective about who you teach. Share with those who are genuinely hungry to learn and ready to apply. The third warning is about consistency. These principles only work if you practice them consistently. You cannot tithe once and expect to become wealthy. You cannot speak abundance for a week and then go back to complaining about money. You cannot think generationally on Monday and then chase a get-rich-quick scheme on Tuesday. The Talmud says, in the way a person wishes to go, he is led. Choose your direction and walk it consistently without wavering. Let me share a deeper teaching from the Kabbalah that ties everything together. The Zohar, the foundational text of Jewish mysticism, teaches that every act of commerce, every financial transaction, every exchange of value in this physical world has a corresponding event in the spiritual world. When you buy something, when you sell something, when you invest, when you give, there are spiritual forces moving in response to your actions. The ancient rabbis understood that the physical world is just the surface. The real action, the real cause and effect, happens in the spiritual dimension. This is why mindset matters. This is why words matter. This is why intention matters. You are not just moving paper and numbers around. You are directing spiritual energy. And when you learn to direct that energy consciously, deliberately, in alignment with divine law, the results in the physical world become almost inevitable. I must be honest with you about something personal. There was a period in my 40s when I drifted away from these practices. I was successful, I was comfortable, and I got arrogant. I stopped tithing consistently. I started speaking carelessly about money. I stopped thinking generationally and started chasing short-term gains. Within 2 years, I had lost nearly 40% of everything I had built. It was devastating, but it was also the most important lesson of my life. It confirmed that these principles are not optional. They are not suggestions. They are laws, as binding and as real as the law of gravity. When I returned to the practices, when I humbled myself and went back to the fundamentals my grandfather taught me, everything began to rebuild. And it rebuilt faster than the first time, because now I had both the knowledge and the hard-earned wisdom of knowing what happens when you abandon it. Knowing is not enough. You have to do. You have to practice these principles every single day of your life. I want you to understand something about why this matters more right now than perhaps at any other time in modern history. Look at what is happening in the world. Global debt levels are at all-time highs. Inflation is eroding purchasing power across every major economy. In the last month alone, we have seen major layoffs across the technology sector, continued banking instability, and growing economic uncertainty that is affecting families everywhere. The World Economic Forum recently warned that we are entering what they call a polycrisis, multiple interconnected global challenges hitting simultaneously. The old rules are breaking down. The conventional path of go to school, get a job, save for retirement is failing an entire generation. This is exactly when ancient principles become most valuable. 3,000 years of Jewish history include countless periods of persecution, exile, economic collapse, and rebuilding from zero. The principles I have shared with you today were forged in those fires. They were designed not just for good times, but specifically for times like these. When everything around you is chaos, these principles are your anchor. They work in any economy, in any country, in any era, because they are based on universal spiritual laws that do not change. Let me bring everything together for you now. You have learned the 5 most powerful principles that Jewish fathers whisper to their sons at 13. First, the transfer of identity, taking full responsibility for your financial destiny. Second, the obligation of generosity, tithing to open the channels of abundance. Third, multiple streams, never relying on a single source of income. Fourth, the principle of the spoken word, using your language to create rather than destroy your prosperity. And fifth, sacred patience, building generationally rather than chasing quick results. You now have the exact framework that has built more sustained wealth per capita than any other system in human history. This is not theory. This is practical, proven wisdom tested across 3,000 years and countless generations. You are not weak for seeking this knowledge. You are wise. The Talmud says, "Who is wise? The one who learns from everyone." The fact that you are here, that you stayed until this point in the video, tells me something important about you. You are not a passive consumer. You are a seeker. You are someone who understands that the answers you need are not going to come from the same sources that have failed you before. The Creator helps those who help themselves. This is not a cliché. This is Talmudic principle. You have a choice right now. You can close this video and go back to exactly the same patterns, the same struggles, the same frustration. Or you can take what you have learned today and begin applying it tonight. Not tomorrow, not next week. Tonight. The difference between people who transform their financial lives and people who stay stuck forever is not knowledge. It is action. And the time for action is now. I ask only this. Do not use these principles recklessly or with wrong intention. The universe sees everything. Every action has a consequence. Every word has power. Every intention is recorded. Keep your intentions pure. Follow the instructions exactly as I have shared them, and trust the process. The results will come. They always do for those who align with divine law. If this video has brought you value, I ask you to subscribe to this channel. Every week I share ancient Jewish wisdom that most rabbis will not teach publicly. These are the hidden principles, the practical applications, the real secrets that have been passed down through generations. Turn on your notifications so you never miss a teaching. Leave a comment below and tell me which principle resonated with you the most. Share this video with someone you love, someone who is struggling financially, someone who needs to hear these words today. And hit the like button, because when you do, the algorithm shows this to more people who need it, and that is an act of generosity in itself. I want to close by offering you a blessing from the depths of my heart. May the Creator open for you the channels of abundance that have been blocked. May your home be filled with prosperity and peace. May clarity come to your mind so that you always know the right decision to make. May protection surround your family and everything you build. And may the wealth you create serve not only you, but generations yet unborn. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are a co-creator with the divine. The same creator who spoke the world into existence gave you the power of speech, the power of intention, the power of action. Use these ancient secrets wisely. Use them generously. Use them with pure intention. And watch as your entire financial reality begins to shift in ways you cannot yet imagine. Shalom.